On this day, CAL FIRE, the California State Firefighters, are tasked with setting fire to 140 hectares of tall grass in Lassen County, Northern California.
I didn't imagine that I'd be out here lighting fires, you know. They just teach you how to put them out, usually. That's what you expect to do.
The men patiently and methodically pour a fuel mixture onto the ground. The goal is to create a firewall by burning all the fuel across 2 or 3 meters. The hard part is keeping the flames from spreading.
Yeah, let's just be patient and just dot it. That's a little bit too small. 0.8 yeah, just less heat. Yeah, go ahead.
If he was to run fire right along this edge, it would just get very intense and it would probably cross the road.
Once the perimeter has been set and secured, the fire can be started. The firefighters use torches and projectiles. Within seconds, the brush is aflame. At the beginning of spring, this grassy marshland doesn't seem like a high fire risk. And yet...
in the summer, most of these ponds will be dry, so trying to reduce the fuel loading out in front of or before the actual large fires happen, along with just simply putting checkers all over the place or fuel breaks all over the place to try to hedge our bet against the large fires. So we're starting around the communities and working outward, essentially spiraling out. We're not able to stop a 1 million acre fire on demand anymore. So either we have to remove those fuels or Mother Nature will take care of it. And we're kind of at that tipping point.
This is what California's new normal looks like. Firefighters who are forced to set fire to fields and forests in order to keep the worst from happening. The purpose of these controlled burns, or prescribed burns as they're also called, is to dramatically reduce the amount of brush. As of now, they're central to the fight against wildfires.
Every year, it's the worst fire season ever, and it just keeps on getting that way. Our fire season's starting early and going a lot later, where we used to end our fire season in early November, even October sometimes. Now it's going through December. It's a shift, and it's a whole paradigm shift of us doing a lot more of the fuels reduction. And we have to learn how to control the fire, put fire on the ground when the humidities are up, such as nighttime. If the humidity is too high, you can't burn at all. So we're just playing that fine balance of when to light it. There's a lot of technique, a lot goes in. We're not just wildly out there lighting fires.
2020 is probably...
A paradigm shift. Indeed. For decades, the CAL FIRE doctrine consisted of putting out even the slightest fires. However, faced with increasingly devastating and hard-to-control wildfires and battling droughts that worsen by the year, officials have been forced to adapt and redress past mistakes. Napa Valley's Deer Park is an example of the way bad land management decisions can snowball. This is where the September 2020 glass fire began. The brush fire quickly got out of control. It took more than 2,000 firefighters and 3 weeks to contain it. There were no human casualties, but 1,500 buildings were destroyed. A year and a half later, most of the homes are still undergoing reconstruction. There's not much left of the little green oasis, except for the bitter understanding that the risks facing peri-urban areas where countryside and city meet were not properly anticipated.
Emotionally, that's a tough one. Yeah. What else can you do? When you lose everything, you start over at 76 years old. I can move down the street and it can burn. There's no place to go to be safe in California, no.
Yeah, Bob called. Hey, Bob. God, sorry.
Senator Bill Dodd is among the elected officials who've acknowledged the issue.
Watch the neighborhood. Yeah, you couldn't even see the mountain there. I mean, the hillside.
And was this trees and everything behind you where these vineyards are right now?
Yeah. And every year we call the forestry department and ask them for help to have the owner maintain it. And it never was maintained. And
we have had in the state of California, we've been spending $3 billion a year, roughly, since 2015 on fire suppression. And until 2018, I had a bill, SB 901. Until that bill, we had $0 for fire prevention. That's kind of insane. Yeah, I think that vegetation management is going to be something that we're having to do all the time.
Clearing the undergrowth, felling trees, reinforcing building security. After which something that had seemed unthinkable only a few years before deliberately set fire to the forest. Senator Dodd recently passed 2 laws facilitating this practice.
Look at our indigenous people, the people that were here before us for centuries, were managing this through prescribed burns. But if we manage these things in a way that there's not as much fuel to burn, there won't be the damage that we've had with all these hundreds or thousands of homes burning. We have a goal in the state of California to have about 500,000 acres a year of prescribed burns. We haven't hit that goal yet.
And so, 2 centuries after it nearly disappeared, an ancestral practice is slowly entering the Californian consciousness once more. Before the Europeans arrived, native North American tribes had domesticated fire. Today, in the mountains of Northern California, ranging along the Klamath River, the Yurok, Hooper and Carib tribes manage nearly 500,000 hectares of redwood, oak and conifer forest.
People are looking to natives to find our way out of this climate crisis we're facing. Today, the non-indigenous people have this mentality of fighting nature. They're gonna fight fire. I guess the time has come for them to learn how to live with nature.
Margot Robbins heads the Yurok Tribe's Fire Council. She's fought for decades to earn back the right to practice burns on her land.
For thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, my ancestors took care of the forest with fire on a regular cycle of burning, not every place at once, different places at different times of the year and at different return intervals. The people that came from across the ocean, they saw these beautiful landscapes. And they didn't realize that those landscapes were being maintained by the native people, that the land was healthy and beautiful because of native stewardship. They were afraid of fire. They saw the native people burning, and the general rule of thumb was if you see a native lighting a fire, kill him. And so it has resulted in not only these mega fires, but it has also resulted in disrupted ecosystems. The forest, to some degree, is non-functional, or it doesn't function in a healthy way.
Margot weaves baskets. 10 years ago, while she was getting ready to become a grandmother for the first time, she could no longer find enough hazel tree twigs to craft a traditional bassinet. Like a lot of the tree materials used in the Yurok culture, hazelnut trees need regular burns in order to regenerate. That prompted Margot to look to the practice of forest burning once more.
We need to return to that place where the average person has the right to burn. And we need to provide opportunities to teach the average person how to burn safely.
All right. Ready?
With the support of the Nature Conservancy environmentalist organisation, the Yurok tribe puts together trainings on its territory twice a year.
Although I kind of got excited about
They use the same equipment and uniforms as firefighters, but each day here starts with a spiritual ceremony.
Grandfather, grandmother, see us here, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. As the 7 generations of the future ask for guidance from the 7 generations of the past. Help us to restore the land. Guide us in the proper way to work with fire. Guide us. Guide our hands. Protect us. Wachlau. Wachlau. Wachlau.
Hey, yoa, hi, yoa, hey, yoa, holly, hi, yoa, holly, hey, yoa, holly.
Talon Williams.
Here.
Blair Lewis.
Here.
Jack Singer.
Here.
All right.
For 10 days, Native Americans, Forest Service employees, and environmental activists learn how to manage fire, mastering its movement and intensity in the field.
Our objectives today are to burn the number 5 unit from the top to the bottom without getting spots and slops above the road. This is our safety zone. The wind, the slope, and the sun are gonna help the fire burn hot here, and we're gonna burn it slow, and we're gonna back it down the hill. And in places where we don't want the fire to go, just up the hill, we will have firefighters that patrol the area with backpack pumps of water, and anything that gets started up there, they will extinguish.
Some of the participants have years of experience. Others are complete novices.
So, have you seen what you're doing over here? Just pop up here and look back. So, see where you flick here? Oh, yeah. So, this is backing down. We're trying to burn off the top of this.
His name is Jimmy Jones. He's my younger cousin. This is his first season burning out here. We're training as many of our young people as possible so that eventually, you know, they'll be able to train the rest of the young people to carry on what we're doing.
The burns are usually carried out in winter and spring when temperatures are cooler. This particular February, there hasn't been any rain in several weeks, so it won't be difficult for the brush to catch fire.
Can you guys come over this way? Come on, down this way.
You can't help but be excited when you see big flames. And I also want people to know that it can be done safely, and indigenous nations who have a traditional fire culture, that it's possible to bring it back.
Sometimes the terrain is rougher, making the work more dangerous.
You see that snag? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then keep an eye. And then when you get down and go over, on the other side there's a couple madrone snags that they're burned through enough already. So just heads up on those.
Start from here?
Yeah, start here.
I feel very proud to do it, and I do feel like I have to do it, and that's something that just comes from within. That there's just, my spirit tells me when I'm out here, this is exactly what I need to be doing.
However, burning forests in the same manner as 200 years ago is no longer possible. The tribe's firefighters keep a weather eye on how the operation unfolds. The wind blowing harder or suddenly changing direction, or the evening growing humid later than expected, is all it would take for the flames to become uncontrollable.
But nowadays, because we have encroachment of civilization, we have homes that are in the wildland urban interface, we have communities built in these areas, we have to be able to utilize fire for cultural purposes, develop a prescription for prescribed fire to do that, but remember that in the event the fire gets away from us, it turns into a suppression fire, and we have to be outfitted and ready to switch roles.
To meet its burn acreage goals, the state of California is going to need a lot of helping hands. The Yurok and Karuk tribes have become essential partners in setting up these new fire training practices.
It was scary, it was terrifying sometimes. And then as I gained comfort, sometimes I would stop and turn around and look at what was happening. And just the roar of the fire, it's a bit unnerving, but it's just absolutely exhilarating.
It's a long time coming. It took us 8 years to get this far, so every time we burn, it's joyful for me. I enjoy it. I love it.
Margot and Elizabeth have managed to spread their message beyond the local tribes.
When I first met Margot and Elizabeth and heard the story of Yurok and their relation to fire, it really clicked for me because, oftentimes that's all we hear is the fear about fire. And the way they talk about fire, it's a life giver.
A lot of people are against controlled burning. They think it's not going to do any good, but it's because they haven't seen what happens. So when you see what happens as it goes through, you understand the difference between a wildfire we can't stop to a controlled burn that we help the land get healthier.
Native burns use low-intensity fires. Unlike wildfires, they don't destroy the ecosystem as they spread. Life in the soil and healthy trees alike are left unharmed by the flames.
You know, it was so thick with brush, I don't even actually know what was here. Yeah. This place also used to be prairie. You would never guess it, looking at all the brush, and like this is a lot less brush today than it was yesterday. So we'll have to still do a couple more entries. And
for the past 200 years, Californian forests have indeed grown thicker and changed. There are now between 3 and 5 times the number of trees per square meter. Along the Klamath River, there are now more conifers than oaks, and they've taken over the prairie. The local tribes use fire to restore the ecosystem. Upstream, the Karuk tribe has created a whole burn department, dedicating about 30 people to the task. Bill Tripp is at the head of this team that combines science with traditional native know-how. This plot of fir trees and white oaks burned down a few weeks ago, and thanks to some much-needed rain, plant life is already starting to grow back. Fresh grass, ferns and moss sprouted from a ground still blackened by flames.
This is a wild iris. Well, it's all of the leaves and needles and everything just come down on top of it and just eventually choke it out. You know, you'll get a few little strands coming up here and there, but it needs fire to get rid of the stuff off the top so it can really grow good.
Other shrubs will take several months to grow back.
We've got some of this live oak brush that is part of the reason we wanted to scorch that back. When that grows back, it makes for a really good deer and elk browse. So it's got really sharp little leaves on it. So deer and elk don't really like to browse on it once that happens. But when it's fresh and it comes back the year after fire, it'll be really soft and highly nutrient dense. You know, in a lot of cases, you know, the forests are getting too dense, and they're also, you know, what they call a food desert. You know, not only for people, but for wildlife as well.
The fire cleared the undergrowth of dead leaves, overgrown bushes and even some fully grown trees. Dead but still standing, this Douglas fir still has a purpose within the ecosystem.
There are some holes up in there that woodpeckers have been opening up, and so when these type of tree dies, bugs will get in there, and then that'll make for food for woodpeckers and other birds, and so it's good to have snags out there.
By reducing the amount of plants on this plot, the fires have also reduced how much vying there is for water. The next time drought hits the forest, the trees will be more resilient.
We said fires are bad, so we taught everybody that all fire is bad, put them all out, and everybody will be happy. We have to reverse that narrative.
We need the fire to carry across the land in order to do the good work that it's here to do.
In the face of an all-powerful nature, Californians have discovered a new sense of humility, and the way Native Americans did before them, they're taking their turn, attempting to tame fire.